Have you ever scrolled through your social media feed and felt a pit form in your stomach? It starts as a glance at someone else's life, beautiful photos, curated moments, and flawless images, and suddenly, you're comparing yourself to them. Your life feels inadequate, your body doesn't measure up, your success doesn't shine like theirs, and in that instant, you hate yourself just a little bit more. You're not alone in this. What if I told you that this feeling isn't just a random moment of insecurity? It's the product of a system designed to make you feel worthless. Social media has been engineered to trigger these feelings over and over again. It feeds you images of perfection, selling you an ideal that doesn't exist. But here's the catch. The more you internalize these images, the deeper you fall into self-hate. You're not just chasing validation. You're chasing an illusion that's ultimately destroying you. The question is, will you keep feeding into this lie, or will you finally see it for what it is and break free? You open your phone and there it is, the bright, glossy screen lighting up the room. Instantly, you're swept into a world that's not quite real, but feels so tangible. You see it, the flawless bodies, the perfectly filtered faces, the vacations you'll never take, the relationships you'll never have, the careers that seem so effortlessly successful. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice starts whispering, "Why can't I have that?" It's almost hypnotic, isn't it? These images that parade across your feed don't show the messy, unfiltered truth of life. They only present a polished, curated version of reality, as if life is something to be edited and perfected for public consumption. But what happens when you start comparing your behind-the-scenes to their highlight reel? When you measure your ordinary moments against an ideal that doesn't even exist, you start to believe that your real self, messy, imperfect, authentic you, isn't good enough. You feel small, insufficient. You think it's harmless, a passing moment of self-doubt. But what if it's not? What if this cycle is eating away at your sense of self, layer by layer, until you can't even remember who you were before you started chasing after an idealized version of someone else's life? The truth is, social media's beauty lies in its ability to shape our perception of reality without us even realizing it. Every picture, every post, every filter is a carefully constructed lie designed to make you feel like something is missing in your own life, something that can only be filled with the next product, the next vacation, the next perfect moment. It's not just about selling a product, it's about selling a sense of inadequacy. It whispers that who you are right now isn't enough, that you need to change, mold, adjust, until you too can fit the standard of beauty, success, and happiness that everyone else seems to have nailed. But here's the catch. None of this is real. Behind the flawless images, behind the airbrushed selfies and expertly staged scenes, there are lives filled with the same messiness, the same insecurities, the same struggles you face. The difference is that they're hidden, covered up, polished to a point where they appear perfect, and yet, somehow, this illusion becomes the standard by which we measure ourselves. But how much of your self-hate is rooted in these idealized images? How many times have you looked at someone's picture and thought, "I'll never measure up to that"? It's time to ask, why are we measuring ourselves against something that doesn't exist? And more importantly, what happens when we begin to believe that this perfection is the only version of ourselves worth showing? The illusion of perfection isn't just about beauty, it's about the way we've come to define our worth. The more you chase it, the more you lose yourself. It's not about becoming better, it's about becoming someone else. But the truth is, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. It starts with a simple scroll. You're innocently looking through your feed, maybe checking on friends, maybe just killing time. But then, you see it. A picture that catches your eye. Maybe it's someone you barely know, or maybe it's someone with thousands of followers. Their life looks perfect. They're on a beach, sun-kissed skin, laughing with friends, living a life that seems untouched by the daily grind. And then it happens before you even realize it. You're comparing yourself to them. Why isn't your life like that? Why are you stuck in your own routine while they're off living this dream? Suddenly, the weight of your own life feels heavier. I'm not enough. I'll never measure up. The thoughts begin to spiral until they're the only thing you can focus on. You've fallen into the trap, and the more you scroll, the deeper you sink. But here's the catch. This isn't about them, it's about you. It's not about the lives of influencers or celebrities or the curated moments they choose to share. It's about the deep insecurity inside of you, a sense of inadequacy that social media feeds on. Why do we compare ourselves to people we've never met? Why do their lives we know little about, become a benchmark for our own worth? The answer lies in the psychology of validation. We crave approval, not just from those around us, but from strangers too. Social media tricks us into believing that the number of likes, comments, and followers we have defines our value. The rush of a post getting attention feels good, but it's also hollow. The moment the notifications stop, so does the high. And so, we post again. We scroll again. We compare again. But the truth is, this isn't a place to connect. It's a place to lose yourself. Every scroll pulls you farther away from your authentic self, feeding into the lie that your worth can be measured by how many people approve of you. We measure our lives, our happiness, our successes, against people we barely know, and we forget that those curated moments are not the full story. They're just snapshots carefully selected and crafted. And yet, we hold them up as the standard. It forces you to face a harsh reality. How much of your sense of self-worth is really built on external validation? How much of your happiness is dependent on someone else's opinion, someone else's approval? You might think it's harmless, a quick glance here and there, but every time you compare yourself to someone else, you chip away at your own sense of identity. You start to lose track of who you are, what you truly want, and what makes you happy. So, ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped measuring your life by someone else's standards? What if your value didn't depend on the likes, the followers, or the curated perfection you see on your screen? The comparison trap isn't just a cycle. It's a cage that keeps you trapped in someone else's narrative. It feels like a small victory, doesn't it? The satisfying ping of your phone, a like, a comment, a share. Each notification is a reminder that someone has noticed you, acknowledged you, perhaps even admired you. For a moment, you feel seen, you feel good. But that feeling? It's fleeting. It's temporary. The rush of validation doesn't last, no matter how many likes you get. It's as though each high you chase leads to a new low. The problem is that you keep coming back for more. Each new notification promises that this time, this post, this moment will be different. This time, the rush will be enough. But it never is. Like a drug, you crave the next hit, the next piece of validation. Your phone becomes a source of constant anticipation. Every time you pull it out, you're hoping for that same surge of dopamine. And yet, each time, it falls short. It's a cycle you can't escape. You post something, you wait for the likes to roll in, and when they do, you feel a brief surge of satisfaction. But when they stop, when the attention fades, you're left with an emptiness that no amount of likes or comments can fill. So, you post again, you scroll again, you compare again, and the cycle continues, each time expecting something different, but receiving the same hollow feeling. Why does this cycle exist? Why is it so powerful, and why do we keep returning to a system that ultimately leaves us more empty than before? It's because the approval we get on social media isn't real, it's manufactured, it's momentary. The validation you receive isn't based on who you are. It's based on how well you can perform in a digital space, how much you can curate your image to meet someone else's expectations. The likes, the shares, the comments, they're not affirmations of your worth. They're fleeting distractions, digital rewards that condition you to crave more, but never truly fulfill you. As the tension rises, the realization settles in. These digital rewards never truly fill the hole inside. They only amplify it. The more you get, the more you need. And in the end, you're left with an emptiness that no number of likes can touch. So, the question is, why do you keep returning to a system that chips away at your sense of self-worth? What happens when the validation you've been taught to crave only leaves you more hollow? It's time to confront the truth that the high of validation is fleeting, and the emptiness that follows is real. Yet, you continue. The question remains, why? You've been there before, the tightness in your chest when you see that perfect group photo. Your friends are all smiling, basking in the glow of a moment you weren't a part of. They're at a concert, on a trip, at a gathering you weren't invited to. It starts small, just a flicker of discomfort, but the longer you scroll, the deeper it sinks. A gnawing feeling begins to take root inside of you. You're not part of it. You're left out. It's more than just jealousy. It's the sharp, invasive sting of inadequacy. You start to question yourself. Why wasn't I invited? Why don't I have the same experiences? The more you scroll, the worse it gets. The lives of others seem fuller, richer, more exciting, and yours feels empty. You wonder if you're falling behind, if your life is somehow less worthy, less vibrant. This is FOMO, the fear of missing out. But it's more than just a feeling. It's an anxiety, a pressure, an ever-present reminder that everyone else is doing something you're not. The more you see, the more you want. The more you feel you're missing, the more you believe your life is incomplete. And that's where it starts to get dangerous. FOMO isn't just about wanting to be a part of something. It's about believing that your current life, your current reality, simply isn't enough. It's an insidious feeling, isn't it? The idea that you're always a step behind. That what you're doing, who you are, and where you are, isn't good enough in comparison to what others seem to be living. And social media amplifies it. Each post, each story, each snapshot of someone else's highlight reel. You can't escape it. It feels like everyone is moving forward, while you're stuck. But let's pause for a moment. What if it isn't about the event itself? What if this longing isn't about the specific moments you're missing, but the deep, aching insecurity that they've triggered? What if FOMO isn't just a symptom of other people's happiness, it's a reflection of your own self-doubt? Social media doesn't just show you what you're missing, it makes you believe that what you have isn't enough. It convinces you that your life, your journey, your unique experiences are somehow less than theirs. This is the trap. The more you compare, the more you begin to believe that you're incomplete, that you're falling behind in some race you never signed up for. The tension rises as you realize the truth. The very act of scrolling, of comparing, is amplifying your dissatisfaction. Social media isn't just a place to connect with others, it's a breeding ground for dissatisfaction. It teaches you that the life you have is insufficient, that your experiences, your choices, your quiet moments aren't enough. FOMO isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a quiet killer of joy, and it leaves you wondering, when will I ever be enough? You've seen it, the perfectly staged photos, the videos with flawless lighting, the captions that seem to capture life's most exquisite moments. But underneath the surface, there's something darker at play. Social media doesn't just show us the lives of others, it sets the standard for how we should live. It cultivates an insidious culture that tells us we must be perfect. The message is clear. If your life isn't polished, edited, and flawless, it's not worth sharing. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we begin to internalize this message. Every picture becomes a performance. Every post a carefully constructed piece of art designed to project an image of perfection. But it's not just about the content we see, it's about the message that's embedded in every like, every comment, every follow. Perfection has become the currency of social media, and we've bought into it. The pressure is relentless. To have the perfect body, the perfect relationship, the perfect vacation. To have it all the time. You start to question, is my life worth anything if it doesn't look like theirs? Why do we feel the need to constantly curate, edit, and perfect every detail? Why do we constantly measure ourselves against images that are carefully crafted, filtered, and staged? This obsession with perfection isn't just an external pressure, it's internalized. It's a voice in your head telling you that if you're not flawless, you're not worthy. The endless need for approval, the constant self-criticism, The belief that you're not enough unless your life looks like someone else's highlights. This is where perfectionism starts. It's toxic, it's suffocating, and it's tearing you apart from the inside out. Every time you scroll through your feed, you're reminded of your own imperfections. But instead of seeing those flaws as part of your humanity, part of what makes you real, you see them as something to be fixed. Each picture, each post, feels like an opportunity to present the best version of yourself, a version that doesn't even exist. The pressure to be flawless builds, and the shame of not measuring up intensifies. You start to believe that who you truly are, in all your complexity, isn't enough. So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we feel the need to live up to an unattainable standard, one that only reinforces feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt? This isn't about perfection, it's about control. It's about trying to control how others see you, to present an image of yourself that feels more acceptable, more worthy. But the truth is, the more you chase perfection, the further you drift away from authenticity. It's time to ask yourself, how much of your worth is tied to the illusion of perfection? How much of your happiness is anchored in an ideal that doesn't even exist? You can keep striving for the perfect life, or you can begin to embrace your real one, the one that's messy, flawed, and beautifully human. The question is, will you let go of the need to be perfect in order to finally be yourself? It starts so innocently. At first, social media is just a way to stay connected, a way to pass time, or maybe a place to seek out a little entertainment. But over time, something shifts. Slowly, imperceptibly, the images, the stories, the perfectly curated feeds start to take hold. And without even realizing it, you begin to measure yourself against them. At first, it's just a glance, a thought that flits through your mind. Maybe I should work harder, look better, be more like that. But as you scroll, as you see more and more of these idealized lives, something begins to change inside of you. You start questioning yourself. Why don't I look like that? Why aren't my moments as beautiful, as exciting, as perfect as theirs? The once confident person you were, someone comfortable in your own skin, becomes a shadow of self-doubt, and it's insidious. It's not just one moment of comparison that damages you. It's the constant drip, drip, drip of comparison, day after day, that erodes your self-esteem, like water wearing down stone. The more you see others living their best lives, the more you start to feel that your own life isn't enough. Your body, your relationships, your success, all of it begins to feel less than. Slowly, the person you once were, someone who was proud of their identity, becomes buried under the weight of societal ideals that are impossible to live up to. The tension grows. You start doubting yourself. The truth is, social media doesn't just reflect the world, it shapes how we see ourselves. The images we see, the carefully curated lives, the constant barrage of perfection becomes the standard by which we measure our worth. But here's the brutal truth. These ideals aren't real. They're filters, edits, and angles designed to hide the flaws, the struggles, and the humanity behind the image. And yet, we internalize them. We start believing that our worth is determined by how well we can measure up to these unrealistic standards, and that's where the damage lies. It chips away at your mental health, your emotional stability. Each moment of comparison chips away at your sense of self, reinforcing the belief that you are not enough. It doesn't just affect your perception of others, it alters how you see yourself. You begin to feel less than. You begin to feel like there's something wrong with you. The most dangerous part? You've been conditioned to believe that these feelings of inadequacy are your own doing, but they're not. They're the result of a system designed to make you feel less than. Social media doesn't just influence how we see others, it changes how we see ourselves. It feeds you the lie that you need to be perfect, to measure up, to be validated by others. It convinces you that if you aren't liked in the digital world, you aren't worthy in the real one. And here's the hardest truth of all. This self-hate isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's the result of a system built to make you feel like you're not enough. And as long as you keep measuring your worth against a distorted, filtered reality, you'll keep losing sight of your own value. There's a moment in every journey when the weight of what you've been carrying becomes too much to bear. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. You begin to see the truth for what it is. The constant comparison, the relentless search for validation, the self-hate. It's not who you are. It's not your fault. But it's time to stop living under its shadow. It's not enough to simply recognize the damage that social media has caused. Change requires action. And that action starts with reclaiming your autonomy, taking control over your mental and emotional well-being. You don't have to keep living in a world where your worth is determined by likes and filters. You can break free from the cycle of self-doubt that social media has created, but it requires intentional steps. The first step: unfollow the accounts that make you feel small. It might seem simple, but it's revolutionary. Stop exposing yourself to the constant parade of perfection that leaves you feeling inadequate. You have the power to choose what you see. If an account triggers insecurity, if it feeds your need for comparison, unfollow it. Surround yourself with content that lifts you up, that promotes authenticity, that reflects who you truly are, not who you're told you should be. Next, set boundaries. You don't have to be available to social media 24/7. In fact, the less time you spend on it, the more space you create for self-reflection and self-love. Create intentional breaks from the digital world. Give yourself permission to live in the moment, to experience life without feeling the constant pull to document it. Start to build a life outside of the screen, a life rooted in real connection and authenticity. But perhaps the hardest step of all is facing your fear of missing out, the fear that if you disconnect, you'll be left behind. The fear that stepping away from the constant stream of updates, posts, and stories will somehow make you irrelevant. This fear is real, but it's based on a lie. The truth is, the more you allow social media to dictate your self-worth, the further you move away from the life you truly want to live. Reclaiming your time, your peace, and your sense of self doesn't make you out of touch. It makes you whole. The digital world is a lie, one that promises validation but delivers emptiness. Your self-worth doesn't come from likes or comments or the number of followers you have. It comes from within. It comes from embracing your authentic self, free from the pressure to conform, free from the need for external validation. Now is the time to take action. It's time to step away from the digital lie and reclaim your self-worth. It's time to stop living for the approval of others and start living for the truth of who you are. You are enough, just as you are. And the moment you accept that, the chains of self-hate will begin to break. There comes a moment in every journey when the noise around you grows unbearable, when the constant buzz of likes, comments, and curated images starts to fade into the background. And in that silence, you finally hear your own voice, raw, unfiltered, and undeniably real. This is where transformation begins. This is where you reconnect with the truth of who you are, beneath the layers of filters and expectations. Living authentically isn't easy in a world that constantly tells you to be something you're not. Every scroll, every post, every perfectly crafted caption reinforces the idea that you need to look, act, or be a certain way to be accepted. But what if the key to true happiness isn't in the perfect image, the perfectly crafted life? What if it's in the messy, imperfect, real you? Authenticity is not just a buzzword, it's a lifeline. It's the courage to show up as you are, without the mask, without the filter. It's the radical act of embracing your imperfections and celebrating them, because in those imperfections lies your uniqueness. When you begin to embrace authenticity, you stop seeking validation from a system that thrives on superficiality. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards and start defining it on your own terms. This journey of self-acceptance doesn't happen overnight. It requires a commitment to self-awareness, to looking inward and questioning the beliefs you've internalized over the years. It's about recognizing that the standards of beauty, success, and happiness you've been chasing are not only unattainable, they're illusions. And once you see them for what they are, you can finally let go. As you let go of the need to conform, You create space for self-love to flourish. You begin to understand that your worth is inherent, not tied to how many followers you have or how perfectly you present yourself online. Real love, real fulfillment, comes from within. It comes from accepting yourself fully, as you are, without needing anyone else's approval. And here lies the challenge. Disconnect. Step away from the illusion, from the curated perfection, and reconnect with the life that is real. The one without filters. The one where your worth isn't measured in likes, but in your own ability to show up and be you. This is where true freedom lies. The freedom to be unapologetically yourself in a world that often tries to tell you otherwise. As you finish this journey, you might feel a quiet strength growing inside of you, a sense of clarity, of peace, of empowerment. You are not defined by the number of likes or the carefully filtered images of others. You are defined by the truth of who you are, beautiful, unique, and perfectly imperfect. Now, it's time to live that truth. Step into the world as your authentic self and leave behind the illusions. You are enough. Always have been.